Hey guys, what's up? Onepeg here. Somebody asked me in the comments if I owned the vacation house that we were staying in for the week, and no, we're just renting it for the week. That would be amazing if I could afford a second home, but for now, we're just gonna rent where we're staying. Anyway, the point of this video is just a quick update on a video that I made yesterday. There were some major stealth changes to most all of the stims. They've all been nerfed pretty heavily. And there's also been some pretty significant buffs, with the exception of the Saiga. And most of these are on the sly, and there's a hidden stat that was modified at the same time. So I'm going to go into this a little bit, but if you guys are looking for a TLDR, in terms of shotguns, they're buffed by about 30 to 40% in terms of their accuracy and this stat that's known as dispersion. The most major thing to come out of this, I guess, that's newsworthy is that the Stim Meldonin kind of got nerfed by about half. Instead of a 20% damage reduction, it's now 10. While the buff is still 15 minutes, the negative or the penalty side of this is something that was increased significantly, going from 0.06 hydration and energy penalty, like that bleed off, to 0.1. So that's more in line with what you would, I guess, want to see. Things like Abdalbos, that ended up having a larger penalty associated with its debuff after the stim ran its duration. The stat enhancements, while the stim is kind of like in its buff phase, aren't nearly as good kind of across the board for all of the new stims, as well as the blue and red stims and adrenaline. It feels a little bit more balanced this way. So now there's only like 3 rounds in the entire game that actually won't one tap ahead. Now yesterday I ended up making a video about Meldonin and how broken it was. If you want to see what that used to look like, you know, go and check it out. There's nothing like hooking me up with a couple more views and maybe even a like or two, right? But since yesterday, it has been nerfed, along with a lot of the other stims. So for these, I'm just going to go down the list. In the case of Abdalbos, the stamina recovery rate used to be 1.5 per second. Now it's 0.5. The endurance buff used to be 20, along with strength, which was also 20. Those are both now 10. The L1 stim had an endurance increase of 15. It is now 10. And stamina was nerfed from 40 to 30. The Meldonin stim had an endurance value of 30, and now it's 20. Meldonin also had a recovery rate of 1.5 stamina per second. That is now 0.5. The old blue SJ6 stim had its endurance value decreased from 50 to 30, and the stamina recovery from 2.5 per second to 2. The SJ1 or red stim, endurance and strength, which were 25, is now 20, and stress resistance, which was 25, is also now 20. The adrenaline stim, which had endurance buff value of 20 along with strength, are both now 10 instead, and the recoil control stat, which was added, that was 15, is now 10. The 3BTG stim had a stamina recovery rate of 2, which is now 1. The 3BTG stim actually had one of its effects buffed. Instead of it giving a 30 health benefit, it's now 45. But the energy drain rate went from 0.2 to 0.25. The main takeaway from this is that damage-reducing stims like Meldonin and P22 are now halved. Instead of it being a 20% reduction, it's now 10. Now, the Abdalbo stim also had some of its penalties doubled. Instead of it being -10, it's now -20 for all of the stats that it modified for the negative stats of memory, intellect, and attention. The L1 stim also had its effects modified slightly to where the energy and hydration rate, instead of being 0.3, is now 0.45. The AHF1 stim also had its hydration rate made greater from 0.25 to -0.3. And another large one that came out of this was that the MULE stim had its damage modifier, which didn't used to exist, was now added to where if you use the MULE stim, yeah, you get a lot more carrying capacity, but you also take 9% more damage now instead of what was once nothing. Okay, so on to shotguns, and I'm going to try and keep this relatively short. For those of you that are unfamiliar, the way that shotguns work is a 2-part process. One comes into effect with the accuracy of the barrel, with the exception of the Saiga, which doesn't have an interchangeable barrel, and the amount of dispersion that the barrel also creates. So you have this circle, which is the center of impact, that is drawn downrange depending on how many MOA of a cone worth of accuracy it shows in that accuracy stat. Aside from this, there is a hidden stat which is called dispersion. And that's basically the cluster of pellets that shoots out from the shotgun. And this really only pertains to when you're using buckshot or flechettes or something that has more than one projectile when you pull the trigger. So this is a clustering of the pellets, kind of like a smaller circle inside of the larger one. So the smaller the number for this dispersion amount, the better. The more likely it is to hit a target at range. Meaning that if you have a point of aim, the ideal positioning for one of those pellets would be to hit the point of aim. The closer you can get a cluster of pellets to the point of aim, the better. Now, in a prior video, I did a bunch of testing that showed they weren't really all that accurate. Like, only about 5% of the pellets were actually hitting the head hitbox at 25 meters. But most all of the barrels in this case have been buffed. The only thing that really looked like it got nerfed a little bit was the dispersion amount for the Saiga. But the dispersion amount for this, in the case of the Saiga, was actually nerfed by about 30%. In the case of just about all of the barrels for both the 133 and the 153, which generally are pretty interchangeable, all of them have had their dispersions and center of impact stats improved by somewhere around 30 to 40%. Instead of it having a value of 1, and we don't really have a point of reference for this, just so that you all know, it's really just what it once was versus what it is now, so we know it's gotten better by a bit. I'm going to end up doing some more testing on this, but, you know, obviously I'm at the vacation house, so it's going to take me a little bit of time before I can actually, like, do some real in-depth testing with this. So while the Saiga's shotgun dispersion amount was nerfed slightly, the 133 and 153, all of the barrels available to them, have all been improved in terms of their accuracy and dispersion statistics. The most accurate of which is the 750mm barrel for the 153, which had its center of impact improved by double again, and its shotgun dispersion improved by about 30%. So we have an even tighter cone of accuracy and a dispersion amount. The cluster of pellets is now even more accurate by about 30%, which makes the long barrel 153 the most accurate shotgun in the game yet again. Now, until today, it was the Saiga, but it seems like it's flipped. So now, if you're trying to get those headshots for those shotgun tasks, you want to start using a 153 again instead of using a Saiga with a drum mag. And the last bit for you boys that decided to stick around until the end of this one, I'm going to give you a little secret tidbit. Strength, endurance, aim drills, and surgery. Strength is leveled by both running and walking overweight, but the amount of points, the XP that you get, scales based on how overweight you become. So the more overweight you are, the faster the strength skill point gain. Endurance is leveled by running and walking when not overweight, but the amount of points that you get depends on your fatigue status. Aim drills is leveled by shooting at people, but it's only within a certain short time frame immediately following when you ADS. So you have to aim, fire, and hit your target within a certain number of seconds. Surgery is leveled by using surgical kits. It also has stat modifiers for yet to be included stats, which are first aid and field medicine, but they're not in the game yet. So right now, the only way to level surgery is by using surgical kits. So there's something for you guys that decided to stick around until the end of the video. I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks for hanging out. I'll get you some more concrete information on strength, endurance, aim drills, and surgery, how much it adds, all that stuff, and I'll do some shotgun testing over the coming days. Might not be until I get home this coming weekend, but, you know, within the next week, you guys should see something from me on both of those fronts. We'll see you soon. Peace.